to my new video. I'm going to be making some earrings today. I have watermelons, little bees and cherries, and I'm gonna show you how to make those. So for all of this you're gonna need some yarn, obviously. I'm using like this kind of embroidery yarn. Then I'm using a 2mm crochet hook. I've also made some of these with 2.5mm. That works fine too. If you want them to be even bigger, you could try that out with a 3mm or whatever too. I personally haven't done that, but you do you. And what you also need are these little earring hooks. I'm gonna put a picture up here and post a link where I got them in the description. So apart from that, I mean, scissors, an embroidery needle would be good, and that's it. So let's get into it. The first earring I'm going to show you how to make is this little watermelon. I already made one of them and I'm going to make the second one with you now. We're starting off with a pink yarn with a magic ring, and we're gonna crochet 6 single crochets into that magic ring. So I made my 6 single crochets, and why I love a magic ring is because you can just pull it tight, and there we go. We're gonna keep going in rounds and increase on every stitch, so just single crochet into each stitch twice. Now that we've finished our second round, you should have 12 stitches all around. It would be easier with a stitch marker, but I was too lazy to get mine, so I'm just counting. And for the next round, we're gonna have 1 single crochet and 1 increase. So 1 normal single crochet and then 2 single crochets in that next stitch. Now we have our third row done. We're gonna keep going, making 1 single crochet and 1 increase, and now 2 single crochets and an increase, and keep on going, making 2 single crochets and an increase until your last stitch where you have an increase and then 1 single crochet, and that will be the end of the row. I finished my last row, my 4th row, and I made my 2 increases here, and before single crocheting my last stitch, I'm changing my color now, so I'm just gonna slip into here, pull up that loop, and now I'm gonna change my color so that the change is a little smoother. So now I have my white yarn, and what I'm gonna do now is make 3 single crochets and 1 increase with my white yarn. And while I'm crocheting here, I'm gonna be laying these 2 strands over my hook so that when I pull up this loop and make a single crochet, they're tucked in there and I don't have to weave them. And at the end, I'm almost at the end of my round. I still have to make my increase in the last stitch, and here I made my first single crochet, and now I'm gonna be doing the same thing as in the row before, where I just start off my single crochet, but now I'm going in with my green yarn, pulling this through those 2 loops, and here I'm gonna be weaving them in as I go as well. And now we're gonna have 2 2 single crochets, an increase, and then 4 single crochets, and an increase again. And once again at the end of the round you're gonna have 2 single crochets left. Here we are at the end of the round, and I'm just gonna slip stitch into this loop, so pull it through both of those. And now we're gonna cut the yarn. Wow, it worked. I have just made a very stupid mistake. I cut my yarn way too short. So what you're gonna do if you're following this little tutorial is leave a much longer tail than this, because what we're gonna do after we embroidered our little seeds is fold this thing up and sew it all together here, and it's a lot easier with a long yarn tail. And what I love about this is that all these ends can just be tucked right in, and it doesn't matter because you won't see them. But before we do that, we need some seeds. So here I'm going in with my black yarn and my little embroidery needle. So I'm gonna be folding it this way so that this edge isn't in the middle of the row. And it's a little tricky. You just have to kind of see where it can go through. It's not that easy to have it look all nice and neat, but just see where you can poke your needle through and make a few seeds. So here we have our other side. I'm gonna open this all up and just tie these 2 ends together. So now, since you've hopefully learned from my mistakes, you could just take this strand and sew these edges together. So I'm just taking my embroidery needle and stitching this all up. So as you can see here, I made this tiny little loop at the top, which you don't necessarily need, but it makes it a little easier. And I'm just gonna kind of sew back and forth. And then in the end, I always like to put the needle in here and have it come out right at the bottom, and then trim that right here and kind of push that little strand back in. So now I'm taking one of these little clasps and this hook. I just kind of push this open. I'm gonna take my watermelon and put that through that little loop that I just created. And now I'm gonna be taking this and pushing it right there. And then I just push these back together. And I've got a pair of watermelon earrings. Aren't they cute? The next earring we're gonna be making is this little bee. I already made the first one, and I'm gonna make the second one with the colors reversed, I guess. So let's get started. We're starting off with our dark pink yarn, our magic ring, and into this magic ring we're gonna make 5 single crochets. Next row we're just gonna be increasing on every stitch, so you'll have 10 at the end of the round. At the end of the round we have 10 stitches, and now we're gonna make 1 single crochet and 1 increase, so that we have 15 stitches at the end of the round. So now for the next 2 rows we're just gonna have a single crochet into each stitch without increasing or anything. So once again, before we crochet that very last single crochet of the second round, we're just gonna pull this loop through, and now we're changing our color. So I'm taking my light pink, I'm just pulling my light pink through. What I'm doing here is I'm leaving the dark pink on there. I'm not gonna trim the yarn, so I can just keep working with it once I finish my light pink row. So as you can see here, I'm weaving my light pink yarn in as I go, but I'm just leaving the dark pink right here so that I can keep crocheting with that once I finish my row of light pink. So I finished my first row of light pink, and before I keep going, I'm gonna stitch or embroider the eyes onto my little bee. So I have a strand of black here, and it's kind of hard because the holes aren't completely symmetrical, and then I go back right next to it, oops, and leave some of the yarn, because now I'm gonna go a little bit above it and tuck this yarn over, pull through so that it makes this little triangle kind of shape. Cute! And the same thing on the other side, and like I said, it's hard to make it completely symmetrical, but I think you just gotta learn to love the asymmetry when you make these kinds of amigurumi things. Look, they aren't perfectly symmetrical, but I think they're cute. And what I do is I just tie these together, because I like having some of the leftover yarn just inside of the bead, because it gives it a little stuffing. Place that in there, and now I'm gonna keep going with my dark pink for one round, and then my light pink, and then back to my dark pink. So we'll see when I'm done with that. And so we got our little bee guy here, and now before decreasing, I'm going to take some scrap yarn. I have this little glass of scrap yarn, and I just like to take some of it to stuff my projects. So we stuffed it, and now I'm gonna decrease. So what I'm doing for that is I just make one single crochet and then one decrease. For my decreasing, what I do is I go in the front loop of my first stitch, and then in the front loop of the next stitch, pull it through both of those, and then just make a normal single crochet. And you should have 10 stitches, I believe. I finished my row of single crochet and decreases, and now I'm just gonna make a row or a round of only decreases, and then I'm gonna sew it all together, and then I'm almost done. So I just made my last round of decreases. I actually only made 3 decreases because I feel like a lot of the times it gets very bulky and all bunched up here if you have too many decreases. And now I'm taking my tapestry needle and just sewing up that little hole. Look at our little bee! Isn't it cute? Now I need some of my white yarn for the wings. So start off with a magic ring. Obviously everything is a magic ring around here. Then make 4 single crochets into that magic ring, and then just a round of increases, so you have 8 stitches in the end. So here we have my 2 little wings, And now I'm gonna sew those onto my little bee. I placed these rings in between the wings. Wow, bars. And so I left a little bit of space here. So I should do the same for my second bee. So we got our little bee with our little wings. Isn't it adorable? The wings, once again, aren't perfectly symmetrical, but I think that just adds to the charm. So now let's get to the earring part. Here I used 3 of those rings, so I'm gonna do the same thing. So that just took me a lot longer than I'd like to admit, but I got it in. I'm gonna close it up and we're done. Oh my god, look at them. Aren't they adorable? Oh my god, I'm obsessed. To the next earrings. Next pair of earrings we are gonna be making are these little cherries. So I have my red yarn here. So let's get started with, surprise, surprise, a magic ring. I'm gonna make 4 single crochets into that first, or into that magic ring. Tighten it up and now increase on every stitch so that you have 8 in the end. And now we're making 1 round of single crochet and 1 increase. At the end of this round we have 12 stitches all around, and now we'll just be making 1 row of just single crochets without increasing or decreasing or anything. So now we have to decrease a little, and I'm just making 1 single crochet and then a decrease. And here the way I'm doing it is I insert my hook into that first stitch, pull up a loop, and into that next stitch and pull up another loop. I feel like for these cherries it's a little smoother to have this kind of decrease, but you could also do it the same way I did it with the bees. At the end of that row we should have 8 stitches. Now I'm gonna cut this off, leave a little bit of a tail, and fill it with some scrap yarn. Oops. I just like to kind of bunch this up and put it in there, kind of stuff it with the back of my crochet hook, and then we're making the same thing again. So we got our 2 little cherries here. They are supposed to be kind of open, because now we're making the stem, and for that I'm taking my green yarn and I'm just gonna make a slip knot and chain 15 and pull that through. And now we need a little embroidery needle, and what we're gonna do, I'm gonna take my little green chain and I'm just gonna poke that through our opening here, right through there, and I'm just gonna leave it there. Now I'm gonna take my red yarn, I'm just gonna kind of sew around here and also sew through these loops through these chains, so that the green chain is kind of secured in there. And I just kind of go around here a few times, and now it's secured on here. Anyway, I'm gonna poke this through here, the same spot where we have the green yarn, and do my little thing. I'm gonna tie them together and stuff this in here. If you need to let out some anger, this is great. Okay, first one done, and now we're doing the same thing on the other side. So I tied that second part all up. Now we're gonna get to the earring part. Take this little guy and just kind of eyeball where the middle is. Close it up. And there we have our cherries. Aren't they adorable? So that's it for my earrings that I have for today. If anyone is interested in some more of these earrings, or if not, I will probably make another video anyway, because I still have some more earrings. Look, I'm wearing my little bees because I love them. I'm probably going to be posting these to my Etsy, so if anyone is interested, you could go check those out. And if there is anyone who followed along and made some of these earrings, I would love to see that. So you could send that to my Instagram, and that would be very exciting. And if not, just go follow my Instagram. That's also very exciting. I post great stuff there. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time. Bye!